Suzanne, I would love to paint your nude body. I got that message in June of 2016. Now, I've always wanted to hear those words, but in my fantasy, they were being spoken to me by a gorgeous Italian artist in Tuscany, and he wanted me to pose nude while reclining on a chaise. The finished painting would be dreamlike, in soft focus, and worthy of hanging in the Getty. I never expected those words to come from my friend Tracy Newman's 30-something daughter, Charlotte. And I never expected that she meant she wanted to use my nude body as a canvas to put paint on. Now, Charlotte is a visual artist who draws and paints and writes, and she is a feminist. One day she decided to take off all her clothes and put the paint on her own body just to see what it felt like. Her friend Gabriela took photos of her, and after it was over, Gabby said to her, "Paint me now." Their friend Chloe joined forces with them, and they created the Body Joy Project. On their website, the mission statement begins with this quote: "The ache for home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned. Maya Angelou." And then Charlotte wrote this: "What does it take to feel at home in your own body? In our culture, there is an overwhelming amount of focus on making our bodies look a certain way. We learn to view others and ourselves through a lens of shame. Body Joy Project aims to switch that lens of shame to one of love." Wow. So then I looked at some of the images on the website, and I thought they were amazing. Now, I didn't know Charlotte very well, so the idea of her touching my naked body with paint on her fingers completely freaked me out. But fear has never stopped me from doing anything, and I am a life experience junkie, so I said yes. I was honored to find out that up until that point, every woman who had been painted by Charlotte had asked her to paint them, but after Charlotte heard my story, she asked me if she could paint me. Here's part of that story. I have had breast cancer 3 times in the past 10 years because, like most Asians, I am an overachiever. The 3rd time it metastasized to stage 4, which is the worst stage. In 2011, I was given 6 months to live. I had 2 breast surgeries, back surgery, left hip replacement surgery, 6 weeks of radiation, and 6 weeks of an oral form of chemo. My body had become my enemy and some sort of science experiment. I needed to take better care of myself, so I changed what I eat, what I drink, what I think. I started meditating finally. I started getting acupuncture. I found this phenomenal holistic chiropractor kinesiologist. Now, since we are only as sick as our secrets, let me say that again. Since we are only as sick as our secrets, ooh, okay. And I kept the cancer a secret for the first 5 years. I finally decided to come out of the cancer closet. I learned the importance of slowing down, staying still, and asking for help and love. It was hard for me to throw my pride and ego out the window, but I did it, and I began to receive a tsunami of love and support. I was quite literally loved back to life. I made cancer my bitch, fisted it in the ass, and now completely cancer-free. Every woman I know who has or had breast cancer has spent much of her life taking care of everyone else at her own expense. She has been a superhero or a martyr, saving and rescuing and fixing and helping everyone except for herself. I definitely fit this profile. Bless you. Before I got cancer, I would often sleep only 3 hours a night. I ate junk food, I never drank water, I never meditated, and I said yes to everyone when I sometimes meant no. I was trying to be all things to all people. This went on for decades. I wasn't getting the lesson, and apparently I was so stubborn that it took stage 4 cancer to wake me up. One of my surgeries was a lumpectomy to remove a grapefruit-sized tumor from my left breast. Wow. Whoa, what the fuck is that? Yeah, that's what I had growing out of my left breast. Now, I got surgery to have this removed, right? And they removed it and then they sewed, if you just imagine a big hole, and then they sewed it up really tight. And because I didn't have a lot of loose skin or fat because I'm so thin, when you have an incision site that's that tense, it can lead to infection. So what happened was, it opened.
Could you back up just a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, perfect. Is that better?
Like that?
No. Maybe.
We might just be in a shitty way.
Left a little, maybe?
How about this?
Oh,
How about go like this?
There we go. Thank you.
Can you see it now?
That's better.
Anyway, all right, so just imagine that this was removed and then the incision site was just, you know, a line, and it was really tight, and it got infected, and it opened up, and it left a giant crater filled with black necrotic tissue. I needed an emergency procedure in the surgeon's office where she had to cut out the infected tissue inside the crater with scissors. There was no time for anesthesia, so I screamed in pain. Now, to heal this crater, a nurse used to come to my house every morning and place saline-soaked gauze inside the crater. 8 hours later, she would come back to, that's right, rip out the dry gauze, removing the dead tissue and encouraging the growth of healthy new tissue. There is some pain that is beyond screaming or wailing. Just a single tear would silently crawl down my face. After a few weeks of agony, as my tit crater was still in the process of healing. So now just imagine this is just a big hole, right? And about half of it had grown, you know, like basically back as scar tissue. So, yes. Okay, so after a few weeks of this, my tit crater was in the process of healing. I learned about extracellular matrix powder made out of pig bladders, which regrows human tissue. And I wondered if it might work in my crater. It turns out that a pig's genetic structure is closer to humans than any other animal. I decided to try it, and it worked. My left tit oinks now, but that's okay. Okay, now I did not get reconstructive plastic surgery to fix my left breast because I decided it looked beautiful the way it was, asymmetrical and scarred and strange, with some magically regrown tissue and skin. Right, so now this one is sort of up here, and part of it's scar tissue, and some of it's regrown. And my boyfriend Jeff said that it reminds him of something called kintsugi, which is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by etching it with gold lacquer to highlight and celebrate the imperfection as part of the history of the piece, rather than disguising it. Wow, what a breathtakingly beautiful thing to say. When I was a psychology major at Yale, I wrote a term paper called Cross-Cultural Differences in Perceived Physical Beauty. Now, this was a fascinating journey doing research for it, and I discovered how arbitrary and subjective physical beauty is. For example, in America, as we know, large, erect breasts are considered beautiful and make women more desirable. Women will get plastic surgery to make their breasts larger for this very reason, even if a side effect is that the breasts become hard instead of supple, even if the implants might explode or leak, even if it weakens their immune systems to have foreign objects put into their bodies. But there is a tribe in Africa where large, erect breasts are considered hideous and tragic and laughable. In this tribe, the longer and droopier and more pendulous a woman's breasts are, the more beautiful they are. These tribal women will even have their children hang and swing from their breasts to make them more pendulous. In America, we consider that hideous and tragic and laughable. There are even major changes within the same culture over time. In the 1950s, Marilyn Monroe was the ideal woman, and voluptuous was desirable. In the 1960s, the new ideal was to be thin, and twiggy was the ideal woman. Women began starving themselves. And now J-Lo has made big butts fashionable again. Now lips are made bigger with collagen injections, and face lines are removed with Botox injections. It's all so arbitrary and preposterous, constantly jumping through hoops and punishing, poisoning, or plasticizing ourselves to be considered beautiful. It is exhausting. Why should we strive to achieve an ever-changing definition of beauty? Why not decide just to feel good about ourselves and therefore change the way people perceive us? So, even though I felt I had embraced my scars and asymmetries from my journey with cancer. It was still a whole new level of confrontation to have someone other than my boyfriend see me nude, touch my body with paint, and also I was going to be photographed indoors in the middle of the afternoon with sunshine and bright lights everywhere. I came up with a lot of excuses and canceled my Body Joy Project session several times before it finally happened. As I drove to Charlotte's dad's house in Hollywood that morning, all of my demons came out to have a party on my face. When I pulled into the driveway, Charlotte and Gabby came out to meet me and greet me. Charlotte would be painting me and Gabby would be photographing the whole session from beginning to end. They were both so sweet and kind and they beamed with light, and I instantly burst into tears. I told them I guess I still have a lot of sadness and grief about what happened to my body, and they hugged me until I stopped crying. When I walked inside the house, the living room was all set up with a giant white roll of paper, you know, that came down like a cyc, right? And it was hanging from a pole. It was draping onto the hardwood floor. There were bowls of paint of all different colors on the floor, and the room was professionally lit for a photo shoot. Now, I used to be a model when I was in my 20s. I've been an actor for 30 years. I'm very familiar with photo shoots, but this one was totally different. I followed an impulse and asked Charlotte and Gabby to join me and sit on the floor and close our eyes while I spoke out loud my intention for the shoot and how I wanted it to go. They happily obliged me. I brought some of my favorite CDs with me, so we were listening to Nelly Furtado, Fiona Apple, and Prince. I went into the back bedroom, took off my clothes, put on a robe, and stepped back into that harsh, unforgiving light. Charlotte said, "Whenever you're ready, take your time." Oh. I stood there in the middle of the white papered floor, and then I noticed that the paint colors she had chosen were all my favorites just by coincidence. I took a deep breath, dropped the robe, and it seemed like an eternity before Charlotte dipped her fingers into a bowl of paint and started putting some paint on my back. And so it began. Now, being painted by Charlotte was a roller coaster experience. I was grumpy and resistant and sad when I arrived, but once the painting began, I became fascinated with the visual and tactile experience, and I forgot that I was naked. Charlotte and Gabby are such loving people, and I felt safe with them both. It was an artistic ménage à trois. It was astonishing to watch Charlotte paint me because she is an incredibly gifted visual artist. I have no talent in drawing or painting, so it was magnificent to behold. And Gabby showed me some of the photos as she was taking them, and I was in awe. So, another one. Oh, you can't see.
It's the reflection.
The light is reflecting off of it.
So where am I? How do I do it? Bring it closer? Or
Yeah, perfect. Let's get right
No, back to the right there.
So this is not
Yeah?
take the top part and simply yank it forward slightly.
Oh, so just like this?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, this was a multi-dimensional experience. I was simultaneously the subject of a photo shoot, the 3D canvas for a painting, and an ever-changing sculpture. I also became the artist when I asked Charlotte if I could please use my own fingers and fingernails to manipulate the paint on my body.
Wow.
Oops, wait, that's not it. Wait, I wanted you to see this one too. This is just another one of my torso.
Wow.
Right, I'm gonna put the better? Like that? Right? Just what? Amazing. Okay, and so then this one is me. That's this. Oh, you can't see it. So what you're looking at is my fingers are manipulating the paint that's right underneath here. It's just crazy. And there was so much paint on me that had dried, and then she started pouring more paint on top of me. And so when I would scrape away the wet paint, some of the dried paint that was underneath would come through. It was just amazing. I loved the variety of ways that she put the paint on my body. She would pour it from a bowl, she would throw it on me, she would dabble it, she would smear it, she would splatter it. Some of the photos looked to me like standalone works of art, not a documentation of a work in progress. The journey was the destination. Every step along the way was a different visual miracle with equal value, and there was no end result or finished product in mind. By the way, Gabby is here. She took the picture. She's in the background. She's so amazing. Okay, so only tell you is sort of a spiritual experience where I just, I don't know, something magnificent and magical was happening. And then she wanted me to take my hair down and shake it out, so that's what I did. And you guys, you can see on the bottom, you can see all the, right, the paint on the white paper on the floor, right? And then I was channeling my inner jungle cat, right? Like that, crawling towards everybody. And then this is me. I've now become completely comfortable, you guys. I'm just sort of relaxing, chilling out, just hanging out, completely nude, covered with paint. And then I like this. It feels like I'm a mermaid emerging out of some multicolored ocean. And I had ripped part of the paper down here, and I thought I was in trouble. And she said, no, embrace it. That's good. It's not going to stay in the hardwood floor. So I grabbed the paper that I ripped, and I went. Okay. Once my body was covered with paint, by the way, I didn't feel nude at all. I felt completely clothed, and I never left my body. I was afraid I was going to leave my body from being traumatized. I stayed present the whole time. When we were done, I was so sad that it was over. The hours had flown by. I wanted to walk around outside to let people see how amazing I looked. I could stroll into a nearby restaurant, ask for a table. One of the best parts of the whole experience was taking a shower afterwards. What a wild visual and tactile experience. Charlotte encouraged me to take my time, and she said it would take quite a while to remove all the paint from my hair and body. It was, of course, non-toxic because of my whole journey. Now, I wish there had been a GoPro inside the shower. It was a total eyegasm. There was a multicolored splatter on the shower walls. It looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. And watching the psychedelic blending of colors swirling down my body and slowly circling the shower drain was like some sort of divine hallucinatory acid trip. I became a living lava lamp. It was an incredibly sensual experience too, and after I finally emerged from the shower, I felt reborn. I felt even more like myself, as if I had a new level of appreciation and awareness of my body that was unlocked from this experience. Now, Charlotte lives in Seattle, so she couldn't be here tonight. I'm so happy Gabby is here. She's sitting in the back. If you want to talk to her about the Body Joy Project, their website is called bodyjoyproject.tumblr.com. It's amazing. So, I'm endlessly fascinated by this crazy journey I've had with cancer. At first, it made me hate my body, fight with my body, criticize my body, and then I started changing my point of view. I started loving and cherishing my body again. I am grateful to be alive and vertical and pain-free. Every day feels like bonus round. I am happier and healthier than I ever was before I got cancer. So I don't just believe in miracles, I am one.
Yeah.
I am, thank you. I am 54 years young, and the best is yet to come. I'm happy to tell you that through this journey, I have redefined femininity and beauty for myself. And if anyone here other than Joshua is dealing with body image, if any of you have any sort of judgment or insecurity about any part of your body, I hope that my story will help you embrace your scars, asymmetries, and imperfections. We are all gorgeous exactly the way we are. Woo!